Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey. In this lecture, we're going to set up our Visual Studio. Alright, so with the Unity layout all set up, let's make sure Visual Studio is also set up correctly. Now over here, I'm using Visual Studio Community 22. This is the free version. You can download it directly from their website. Now you don't have to use the exact same ID that I'm using here. Technically, you can use something else. Like it says here on the manual, you can use whatever ID you want as long as it supports source generation. That's really important since Dots does use quite a lot of source generation. Specifically over here, they mentioned Visual Studio 22 Plus or rather 21 Plus. So you can use whatever you want. In my case, I'm going to be using Visual Studio 22 Community. Now let's see my setup for Visual Studio. Now I've also included a file with my Visual Studio settings along with the project files on this lecture. So just like with the project files, you don't necessarily need to follow everything I'm doing in this lecture step by step. You can just download those settings and import them. Okay, so before we actually get into setting up Visual Studio, first actually over here on Unity, let's go into Window, open up the Package Manager, and over here let's just make sure that package is installed. So yep, over here the Visual Studio Editor, make sure this package is installed. And again, in your case, if you're using JetBrains Writer, then I'll go ahead and install this package. Next, inside of Unity, let's go into Edit and Preferences. Then over here on the left side, let's go into External Tools. And here, make sure you select your external script editor. In my case, I'm using Visual Studio 22. Then for these extra options, if you want to play around reading the source code, like for example, the source code for dots and so on, if you want that, then you can go ahead and tick these boxes. But in our case, for this simple game, we don't really need to do that. So let's just leave them like this, and everything is working perfectly. So now if I go up here into Assets and open up the C# project, yep, there you go, it does open up Visual Studio. Okay, great. Now over here for some more settings. Again, like I mentioned, I exported all the settings to a file that you can download. So here in my Visual Studio, I have a nice extension that adds a bit more colors to my code, which makes it easier to read and write. And for that extension, let's go up here into Extension, Manage Extensions. Then again, I'm going to search for something called Viasphora. Yep, there you go, this one. Like it says here, the main thing is that it adds some rainbow braces, so a bunch of colors so everything is easier to see. Then highlight some keywords and so on, so it's a really great thing. I believe if you download the settings file, it will also automatically install this one. But if it doesn't, then just go ahead and do this, search for VS4 and install it. Then with that installed, let's go into the settings, so into Tools, and let's go into Options. Over here, let's scroll down until we find VS4, yep, just like this. And here are all the settings. Now I think these are really mostly all the defaults. I don't remember if I changed anything, but again, I'm going to export all the settings. I think the main thing that I changed was really just the rainbow braces. I think I changed some of these colors. Let's just create an empty script just to see these colors in action. So let's just go and let's just right click and create a brand new mono behavior script. Let's just call it testing. And over here, just write a bunch of testing code just to see the colors. Okay, here's some dummy code. And yep, we can see we do have a bunch of colors. So the if is calling like that, the for like that, the ints like that, the comment like that, the function like that. So yep, that's really it. Now, these are really just visuals. It's not a requirement. So you don't absolutely need this extension, but personally I do find it quite useful. I find it helps make the code a little bit more readable. So next for some text formatting rules, let's go again into Tools, into Options, and then up here let's go into the text editor. And again, I believe here everything is pretty much defaults. These are the settings. Again, you can just download them, or if you want to follow along, just pause the video and compare directly with your own. I think the only thing that I changed was in one of these. So these are the C#, the scroll bars, the tabs, the advanced, and the code style. I think the main change that I did was actually over here on the new lines. By default, C# usually has new lines on all of these. Personally, I don't like it. Personally, I don't like to place the curly braces, the opening directly on the same line instead of the new line. But again, just a personal preference. If you like it on a new line, then you can definitely go ahead and do that. Okay, so like I said, I've exported all of these settings. You can go ahead and download that file directly under this lecture. Then for importing, go up here into Tools, and then into Import and Export Settings. Then over here, click on Next. Then over here, let's select Import and click on Next. Then if you want, go ahead and make a backup of your current settings. If not, then by importing, you won't override it. So I definitely recommend you do this, just in case you have your Visual Studio set up in some different way. If you want to then write some code outside of this course, you probably want to get back to your usual settings. So make sure you save these. Then over here on this window, click on Browse. Find the file that you downloaded from this lecture, so the dots.rts-course.vs settings, and just go ahead and open that one. Then click on Next and Import. So with that, you should have your Visual Studio set up exactly like mine. And the other thing is VS4, so let's go into Tools, Options. Then down here, scroll down into VS4, then Export Import. Click on Import Settings. And again, same thing, find the file that you downloaded, so the dots.rts course vs4.xml, and just go ahead and import this. Alright, so yep, with that, you should have your Visual Studio set up exactly like mine. Again, this will avoid any confusion with things being slightly different on your end versus in the video. This way, everything should match perfectly. So yep, everything is working. Let's just go back over here inside of Unity and let's get rid of our testing script. We don't need this. Okay, great. So Visual Studio is perfectly set up. Now let's import some visual assets and let's do that in the next lecture.